just didn't.
Good morning. It's 9 a.m., Monday, September 18, 2023. This is the Muscatine County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First is to review the agenda.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Nathan. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next is discussion of possible action to approve claims dated September 18, 2023 in the amount of $830,015.28.
I'll move the approval.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Kurt. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next is discussion and possible action to sign a Governor's Traffic Safety Bureau safety grant contract in the amount of $61,080 with Sheriff Quinn Reese and Captain Jeff Mullen. Morning, Quinn.
Good morning. In your packet was the GTSB contract. We get this contract every year. You guys have seen it before. We did up our hours, I think by 50 hours for this contract over last year. And we did do a little bit better as far as grant money for equipment than we had in years past.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought this looked like it was a little bit of an increase on the prior years.
We did increase the hours and the equipment purchase as well, so.
So I'd move the approval.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Nathan. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right. Thank you.
And thanks for the effort on those grants. I know it's not always the easiest things to get, but
Dealing with the state grants aren't as bad as federal grants. Trying to navigate the federal grant system right now is rather difficult.
Okay, very good. Next is items with Planning and Zoning Administrator Eric Furnace. Morning, Eric.
Morning.
First on is discussion of possible action to accept variances granted by the Muscatine County Board of Adjustment on September 8, 2023.
We had two variances. First one was a variance granted for 1605 Washington Street in Moscow. This was a variance that was granted that would allow the owner to construct a detached accessory building. It's actually an addition onto an existing one. 25 feet from the front property line, 17 feet from the side property line. So that variance was granted. The second one was for a variance in Wildlife Estates at 1535 Wildlife Drive. It's up there off 61. It's a lot that contains approximately 0.76 acres. That's a planned unit development. It would, the variance was granted that would allow the owner of that lot to build a new single-family dwelling approximately 20 feet from the front property line. The setback for that planned unit development is normally 37 feet. But it's a fairly shallow lot with a big wooded ravine in the back, so they did allow a variance that allowed it to go within 20 feet of the front property line. It's not 20 foot of the pavement. That's, for everybody's information, is where the front lot line, so it's outside the platted road right away. So it's actually farther than that from the actual travel portion of the road. So those were the two variances that were granted by the board.
Okay.
I'll move the approval.
I got a motion by Jeff. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Danny. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next is review a special use permit granted by the Muscatine County Board of Adjustment at their September 8th, 2023 meeting.
There was one special use permit that was issued, and that was to build a rural residence, a single-family rural residence, 1524 Moscow Road. There was a little bit of discussion on this one because the original proposed site would be slightly within the 1,250 feet separation distance from an existing hog confinement. Now, there is a process that the owner could sign a waiver with that operator, but the board was concerned about that practice since the facility had been constructed in good faith and met the actual separation distance to hog confinement. And so the owners and applicants proposed a slight shift in the location that would get them outside that 1,250 feet, so there'd be no issues in the future with that hog confinement building. And it also meant a minimum of 750 feet from any other rural residences in the area, so that special use permit was granted as well. And obviously, that's just for review, no action needed on that.
Okay. Yep, no action on that, so Next is action to set a public hearing for Monday, October 16, 2023 at 9 AM on a request to rezone approximately 30.17 acres in Sweetland Township in parts of the southwest one quarter of section 20-T77N-R1E adjacent to 3553 Highway 22 from present A1 Ag District to R1 Residential District.
Yep, so a public hearing was held, and the zoning commission recommended approval of rezoning request. We just need you guys to set your public hearing for that, and that's what this is. We hold a public hearing, providing you approve this on the 16th of October.
Okay.
So moved.
Okay.
I'll second.
I got a motion by Nathan, second by Jeff. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Anything other, Eric?
I think that's all I have.
All right, very good, thank you. Next up is items with County Engineer Brian Horowski. Brian, good morning.
Good morning.
First is discussion and possible action to approve various utility permits.
Yes, we have one utility permit today. It is from Eastern Iowa Light and Power of Wilton, Iowa. They're requesting to replace 3 poles just north of 180th Street on North Mulberry Ave. So these poles were hit by a car. Some of this work is actually already started. It was somewhat of an emergency replacement. So
Okay.
I'll move the approval.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Kurt, is that right? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion passes. Anything other, Brian?
yeah, I wanted to give a project update. We've had quite a bit going on over the last couple weeks. Our 135th Street box culvert, which is just east of Western, which is Iowa Bridge and Culvert, they're the prime on that. Culvert is complete, and probably about 75% of the dirt work is complete. So we're really hoping that come the end of this week, they can maybe be wrapping everything up, and potentially opening the road either this week or next week. Our F58 paving, which is a joint project with Scott County, that is complete, which is great. Our seal coat, which was Farner Asphalt, they're out of Wisconsin. They came down last week and they were able to get our seal coat completed. And then our North Isaac Ave Bridge, which is just south of, I believe it's 132nd. That is Iowa Bridge and Culvert. I think we left that here a couple months ago, down here at the boardroom. And they're planning to be here middle of October to start that project. So we didn't know if they'd get in here yet this year or if it'd be next summer, but they think they can work it into their schedule for this year, which is great. So yeah, we got a lot going on. So
Yeah.
that's what I got for project update.
All right, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is canvass of the September 12, 2023 Louisa Muscatine Community Schools Special Election.
Okay, so unfortunately you stuck with me today because Miss Tyvie's under the weather, so
Uh-oh.
I'm going to read this off. If you do have questions, she is here to answer questions.
Okay.
For the Louisa Muscatine Community School District, Public Measure A and Public Measure B special election was held September 12th of 2023. Public Measure A had 133 votes that were cast, of which yes received 97 votes, no received 36 votes. Public Measure B had 133 votes cast, yes received 90 votes, no received 40 votes, and there were 3 undervotes. This is the first tier. This is the Muscatine portion of the votes. Louisa County will meet with their board tomorrow and they will have their tier, and then next week we will put them together for the second tier for a total.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Both counties have to, the votes for both counties have to be in the majority to move that project forward?
That's correct.
And the unofficial results, at least I know on the Pebble levy were in favor of it. I don't know what the other measure was.
Say that again.
I know one was the physical plant and equipment levy renewal. I know, I spoke with the superintendent there, he said they believe that it passed. I'm not sure what the other measure was.
They were both very similar.
Yeah, it stated the actual levy cost
Okay,
in the second measure.
gotcha. Yeah, normally they do what, $1?
Yes.
Okay, very good, thank you. Next is discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of the Monday, September 11th, 2023 regular meeting.
I'll move the approval.
A second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Danny. Is that what I heard? Okay. Second by Danny. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next is discussion and possible action to approve an amendment to the May 22nd, 2023 Board of Supervisor minutes to replace the fourth sentence of the third paragraph with the following. Keys stated that the Board of Supervisors and the Muscatine City Council had previously agreed to split the cost not to exceed $75,000 to hire MSA to conduct a search for suitable parcels and develop a concept design for a law enforcement training facility and shooting range. Keys further stated that the final cost of the study and concept drawing was $43,000.
I'll move the approval.
I will second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Danny. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Correspondence. Jeff, you got anything?
Yeah, I had a letter from Laura Curtis Kramer concerning the shooting, the law enforcement center, and I also had a letter from Mr. Cody Curtis.
Okay.
Again.
I had the same and some other emails about the training facility.
Yep. I had the same and other emails and correspondence about the training center as well. Danny?
Same email, and I believe I had 4 calls in regard to the shooting range.
Kurt?
Same email and a couple calls
Okay,
on the issue.
very good. Committee reports. Jeff, you have anything?
No committees.
None?
I did wanna, I sent an email to you. I have a meeting today of the Eastern Iowa Mental Health Region, and there's a proposal on the amendment to the 28E agreement that we've operated under. With the state taking this over, it really has to do with, bringing member counties in and out of the region is really the only thing on a decision point. And the question is, who should make that decision? Do we leave it to someone else or leave it to the governing board? And I don't know how, currently we have to go amend the 28E to bring somebody in or take them out, and then it has to go and have a consensus of all the counties in the current region. And I think the proposal is, we could still do that, or the alternative is just handle it at the regional governing board level and just let the governing board do it. I don't really see it a difference one way or another. I don't care. Whatever you guys think is the proper direction to head. But I think the current proposal is to have it happen at the governing board. Keep that decision at the governing board. We still have a quorum of county board members on our governing board. We're one of the few regions that's true. With the change in the law, there are a lot of other bodies brought onto these governing boards where they're not all elected officials. So our region, it still is. We have more supervisors than we do
Is it
others.
possible for that to change without further agreement by counties, that
Yeah.
our quorum, our majority could change?
Absolutely. What could happen is if the legislature makes further changes to the makeup of the regions, we certainly could. We added, we have now an education person, we have a judicial person, we have a caregiver, a number of other positions on there. I don't see it as a high risk either way. I mean, it's pretty clear to me, state took over funding. They're changing the makeup of most of the boards. I don't think we're long for the world that the state's gonna be running the mental health system delivery and their decision process. Not sure it's a
Good
positive.
thing we put all that effort into regionalization.
I'm not sure it's a positive, but I see that's the way
My
it's
only
coming.
concern with that would be, Yeah, I think you're probably reading the tea leaves right. I'm just worried about a majority of non-elected people being able to decide who can be a member of this group or not. So I guess I would tend to oppose it, but that is a very low level of intensity and priority for me in my opposition.
Yeah, I'll see how the tea leaves read today at the meeting. I'll make that as our, that would be my concern. You know, I've been on a number of statewide boards, and sometimes you have the fox watching the hen house a little bit, and you don't have the taxpayer,
Exactly.
the elected, you know, I just get a little concerned about that. If you have providers and service, you know, people receiving services, the full vote, that the total taxpayer voice may not be there.
Or if you've got a small county that maybe can't contribute as much as the large counties, getting kicked out by service providers that don't want to provide services there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Any
That's all I
committee?
had.
Okay, thanks. Any committee reports, Nathan?
On Friday, the 15th, I had the, I'm not sure what we're called now, the 7th Judicial District Advisory Board, because we're no longer the governing board of that district thanks to state changes. It's kind of a theme, the state's taken over everything. We kind of spent some time soul searching and navel gazing about what our new role is, and I think we're still to work that out. But you know, I think the important thing is our district continues to be run well, and we've got good people in place.
Okay. I had no committees. Danny?
On 9/12, I attended the Wilton Public Visioning session, and Atlas is the company that we chose to do the housing study, and they held one of these sessions in Wilton, West Liberty, and in Muscatine. So on the 12th, I attended the Wilton, and on the 14th, I attended the West Liberty one.
Were they pretty well attended?
They said, I didn't attend Muscatine, they said Muscatine was. West Liberty was attended better than Wilton. Wilton probably had 10, West Liberty may have had 15.
This is pretty typical.
Okay. Kurt, you have any?
I had none.
Nope. Okay. Thank you. Next are items with the administration office. First is discussion and direction regarding the proposed courthouse roof replacement project.
We're waiting on Mike, right?
He's right
Oh, I didn't know you were behind me, Mike.
So,
Sometimes you just gotta hit him when you walk in.
I didn't see him come in.
morning, Mike.
Morning, how are you?
Good.
So we, as you know, we had started the conversation, or I think it had started under, before Sherry left, about replacing the courthouse roof. And we're engaged with Renaissance Roof, basically a historic preservation and restoration contractor to come up with I think they did a study, and I was not involved with this portion of the project. I've kind of brought in here in the last about a month or so to kind of look at where we are and kind of help keep things moving going forward. So Renaissance came in, did a study, looked at the existing roof, which we have a combination of copper tiles on the top of the clock tower. We have a low sloped, I think it's a TPO roof right outside to the wings, and then there was an EcoStar, basically a synthetic slate replacement that was done probably 10 plus years ago. And then at the base of that roof, there are integral gutters, which originally were copper, but they've had a membrane placed in them in the meantime. There's a little bit of background. In 2017, when we did the third floor courtroom, if you recall, when we took that out, there was significant plaster damage that was done from some of the downspouts that are internal from the gutter. So we did some repairs at that time on the gutter downspout locations, and I think that there was one other additional repair that was done to address a leak with that. But the consensus was that the gutters need to be replaced. So at the top, it kind of slopes down, the gutters pop up, and then you have the cornice kicks over. So all that is it's tied into the base of that synthetic slate roof, but it needs work. So that's something that's been on our agenda, or kind of looking at for quite a while. I think the recommendation from Renaissance was to do the gutters, and while we're doing the gutters, also to remove the synthetic slates. They had some concerns with the installation of synthetic slates. and just kind of the way that that would all need to come together is in order to properly flash and do those gutters into the existing system, you'd be having significant, I guess, getting into the bottom of that synthetic slate system. So their recommendation was, if we're gonna do the gutters, we should do the slates, and if we're gonna do the slates, we should probably do the low slope roof all at the same time, which makes a lot of sense from a standpoint if we're gonna do it, get it all done properly at one time. The other reasoning for doing all the work at one time is there gonna be significant scaffolding put up around the courthouse in order to get the work done. So rather than just, doing one thing, coming back in a couple years and doing another, it seemed to make a lot of sense. And I think that was the original proposal that was agreed to and signed off, prior to Jim reaching out and saying, hey, can you take a look at this, make sure that we have somebody's here and we're going the right direction. Reviewed everything the Renaissance proposed, it was all good, everything in order. I 100% agree with their recommendations. The one thing that we did note was that the original clock tower, which is something that Oscar and I have been talking about for probably the last 4 or 5 years, that was excluded from the original quotation. So somewhere in that development of that proposal, that just fell off the table. So we went back and looked and saw they had some early real basic estimates about doing some repairs to that roof. And then we asked them, had a meeting with the representative from Renaissance, that we need to really look at doing this portion of the roof. Just generally, what we were seeing on the courthouse, the two big areas of concerns were the gutters and then that roof. We have drone flights from as early as 2019 that show missing shingles off of that. You can see where that roof is definitely degraded. We requested Renaissance go back and review and give us kind of a 2 option. One would be just to do that clock tower roof and trying to figure out what was the synergy or what are the things that go together. If we already had the scaffolding up, what additional would we need to do the clock tower? And would it make sense to break those 2 things out potentially, and just do the clock tower as one project and then do the remainder of the roof as another project, mainly looking at what was budgeted for the project and what was available. More or less, kind of talking through it, we're in agreement that what makes most sense for a scope of work is to do everything all at once, which would start from the top and work your way down. Would include the replacement of the copper roofing on the clock tower, probably some selective repointing and sealing of some of the masonry up there from the recent walkthrough. It needs some attention, and while they're up there, it'd be a great time to get that done, and then more or less start from the top and work your way down with the low slope roofs to replace the synthetic slates with a natural slate roof, and then to redo the copper, the gutters at the same time. So the challenge was that we needed to go back and relook at what makes sense from a dollars and cents standpoint, as I think it was, and I don't know the exact numbers here, but more or less, if there was an opportunity here to, looking through budget for different projects, to reallocate some dollars from another spot, essentially to get everything done and get Renaissance under contract to do everything all at once, versus only doing the clock tower and then not do any other portions. We're kind of in a spot where we need to do the top and we need to do the bottom, and if we're gonna do that, we probably should do everything in between. It'd be possible not to do the slates, but based off of their analysis and what we've seen with that, is that there are some issues with the installation of that, and it's most likely gonna be an issue in the next several years. We did talk about sequencing, say, what if we just did the gutters and came back and did the slates later? Their concern is, well, now you're gonna be doing invasive work over top of something you just did, and there's a high likelihood that we could damage or just not keep the gutter project in the same state that it would be. So, long way of getting around to, we need some more money to do the entire project, and that's kind of the recommendation.
So we were, what,
Okay, in your packet, there should have been a 1-page sheet
yeah,
Some options.
that shows, it shows what the cost of the project is now if we do the total thing. It shows what we already had in funding, so what we're short, and then it shows some options about where we might find those additional dollars, and I'll let Kayla talk specifically if you have questions about it. Did everybody find that sheet?
yeah, so the current proposal is like 3.26.
Yes. Well, and that does have a 20% contingency built into
Right.
it,
Yeah.
which is a little
500,
higher than we
that's-
typically use, but for this project, we think that's probably prudent. Because we don't know what we're gonna find when they start tearing into some of this stuff.
So the allocated numbers, I was a little confused, so your 1062 was the shortfall?
Yes,
Okay. And then the options are areas we have,
like places where we might pull that money from.
yeah.
So that end of the year transfer, that's what we think might maximally be available?
That is what you just currently transferred over from the general fund to capital projects, and that hasn't been allocated to any other projects yet.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the transfer we did at the beginning of this fiscal
Right.
year, not what we're anticipating.
Okay. So as of yet unencumbered or
Yep.
unallocated, yeah, I guess you said.
Well, when we established some of these, kind of, I'll go back to history now, we kind of created that building maintenance and repair fund and with this kind of an issue in mind, so I would be, maybe we should look at between the building maintenance repair and the year-end capital to split and fund about 50% of each of those, of that shortfall from each of those two funds, so we don't deplete our building maintenance repair too bad, because you never know which roof's gonna blow up, and they're usually a couple $100,000 apiece.
Caleb, do you have a preference as to if we did that, whether we should suck in those unencumbered funds from ARPA and LATCF? Or would you rather leave those there as they're less, or rather more flexible?
I would probably leave them there to be, since they're lower dollar amounts, you can find smaller projects that could help other things.
Sure.
My recommendation would be the building maintenance and repair and maybe even the debt repayment. To do 50-50 there, because we're
I'm fine
not
with
looking
either.
at paying off any of the debt anytime soon.
And that'd be our current balance after what we did last year.
Right, that's our current balance after
We're
this fiscal year paying off that 2015 debt,
I mean, we're still locked into relatively low interest rates, then, right?
except for the newer ones, yeah.
Right.
The one that we would pay off is the lowest, is 1.9, let's see,
Yeah.
got that down.
As long as we're,
1.95 interest
as
rate,
long
so
as we're
that's not
carrying
something we
them that
wanna
low.
pay off.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with Jeff.
Well, I think your recommendation would be go building maintenance repair, debt repayment, so do, roughly 500,000 each, 530 each.
That works.
I think that makes sense. I'm good with that.
That's fine.
That leaves our other balances still in pretty good shape.
Is that board consensus? Because we're just.
I think that
looking
makes
for
the
direction
best
on this.
sense, I really do.
Yep. Yeah, and I just appreciate that we're in a position where we can do it that easily.
Cause I don't recall the last time we worked, when we did the clock, I seem to remember it was like $100,000 to scaffold that courthouse. It's a very expensive proposition to scaffold.
You don't wanna go there if
And
you
that
don't
was
have.
one of the things that we talked about was, if we're gonna put there's gonna be pretty extensive scaffolding and obviously they'll do everything they can, but it's just gonna disrupt the flow there. One of the things we really felt like is if we could find the money, we'd like to do that once and just get it all fixed, as opposed to having them come back in a year or 2 years and do some of that again so that we can finish the project.
And so this would go back to a natural slate roof.
Yes. Correct?
They broke out options. Right now, the approach is to go to the natural slate. There is if you look at the full proposal, they offer basically a deduct to go back to the synthetic. I think if you can go to the natural slate, that should be properly installed, 100 years roof versus.
And the cost that you're looking at includes the natural slate. That's, when you approved the contract initially without the clock tower in it, that's what you had opted to do, was the natural slate,
Correct.
so.
What would be the life of a project like this on there? I mean, with new copper and everything, what would it be roughly?
So
You have any-
the new copper on the top, so on the clock tower, the natural slate, and then the copper, so they're gonna reline the gutters with copper again. That should be 75 to 100 years. The wear item is gonna be, there's a small portion of flat roofs on the top, which are probably typically 25 to 30-year roofs. One thing we'll look at as part of, when Jim and Nancy asked me to come in, is we'll work with the contractor to make sure that there's a way to transition to replace that roof without getting into the other. So there's some details that we'll most likely kind of work with them to develop as they work the project. But yeah, so everything else, if this is done, should be one and done, which was a little bit the intent when the synthetic slates were put up, but just unfortunately there seemed to be some issues with the installation that we're gonna hit the life of that roof.
Okay,
What's the timeline of the project starting? What are we thinking?
We don't really know yet because we need to, now that we have some direction here, we'll go back to Renaissance and have them develop, we'll have a new we'll have you guys take actual action on a new proposal probably next week, and talk to them about getting on their schedule. They didn't talk at all about timeline when.
Yeah, I think we talked through a couple scenarios. So I would say at the very latest, it would be a spring start. There is a possibility that they could get started this winter, but I think with the time we are right now, I would suspect that they're gonna be pushing out to the spring. And then the time frame for the project, I think that they set themselves about a year, but the expectation was, 4 months, I believe. So I would suspect this is start in the spring and then work through next summer.
yeah. Okay, very good. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Let's see. Next is discussion and possible decision direction regarding revised cost estimates for running water to Deep Lakes Park and the proposed routes for the water and sewer lines. And we do have that information in our packet. Morning, Kirk.
Good morning. When Jim got involved in getting the agreements with the city for the sewer and MPW for the water, MPW came back, we originally looking at 8-inch water line going down, and that came actually from their engineer, but they're telling us now that he misfigured or something changed, and so in order to meet what their requirements are, we then put it back to Bolton Mink, had their engineers look at what, the flow had to be, and we're up to a 12-inch water line that needs to go down there. And so he refigured the 12-inch water line going down Pettibone. It really, one of the biggest increase in cost was going underneath the railroad tracks. And so that's when I brought up to him, what about going down Stewart Road, which I'd heard from a few people, maybe that was desirable. It actually comes out that it's further to go down Stewart Road, but it's gonna be less because you have one less railroad track to go underneath. And so, and then I brought up to him, looking at that, and then Brian probably can concur that the right-of-way on both of those roads is not very much. And by state code, they have to be separated by 10 feet, the water and sewer line. And so he was looking at running them one on each side of the road. Well, if we're gonna do that, the cheapest option would be to run the sewer down Pettibone and the water down Stewart Road.
Yeah.
So then it cuts the cost, you're roughly about an increase of about 131,000 over what was originally proposed or budgeted for that. And of course, with construction costs, none of us know what it's gonna be when we finally go out for bids, but that's, the closest that we could get for estimates.
It looked like that was a little over $200,000 on increased costs. I mean, do we have that money available within our budget currently to cover that difference?
I know, that's
I think that's what we're here
That's
for.
what we're here
So-
for,
You
because
have
that was
that
ARPA
same
money.
you have that same pile of money that you.
I just heard 131,000, is that the?
Right, if we would go with, if you would do it down Stewart Road for the water and down Pettibone, the total then would be 1.621, so it's an increase of 131,000.
Is it possible to run the water and sewer down Stewart?
There would probably be a little bit more of an increase cost if you did do that, because it is further. I was just bringing you back the cheapest I could get, but,
Yeah.
I mean, that,
Well, I for one, you think down on the island, I know there are, you know, there are residents down there that are probably on septic systems. And I know that there'd been a lot of water testing in that area done, and they found a few issues. I think that trailer court down there has some issues, right, I've seen on the sites. So I just wonder if it'd be in the best interest if you could provide that and give hookup capability to those folks and get them off of those systems. You know, what is that cost? You know, I know there was a concern, Santos was always concerned that if we did that, you know, then the city might annex it and put it in, you know, I don't really care, it doesn't matter to me, it's public infrastructure as far as I look at it. I don't know what that cost would be though.
It would increase because right now we're looking at just a 3-inch sewer line going down.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna add many residents onto a 3-inch sewer line, it's just mainly developed for the campground and additional cabins.
Would putting the water line down, Stuart, would that, create problems if anybody ever wanted to run a future sewer line down there as well, to pick up those areas?
They would just have to work around just like what we would if
Probably
we
the
were
other
going
side
to
of
do
the
it,
road.
yeah.
Is
And
the,
and at the time right now, you know, we brought up to both the city and MPW, would they be willing to increase size for future development? But that would be, you know, cost for them, and neither one was interested this time in increasing the sizing.
is the 10-foot distance between the two, is that a situation where that's a constant all the way down Stewart Road, or is it a situation where there's an area or two that is neck down and we don't have the distance to be able to get the separation? I mean, I'm wondering how close this is.
It's, you have to maintain separation from sewer and water lines.
Can it be depth?
You gotta figure it out, 10 foot.
It can be depth as well as distance, do you know?
I'd have to go back, this is municipal stuff that I don't normally work in, but there's not a lot of room for variance when it comes to sewer and water line separation. There may be measures.
Well, that water table's
materials
pretty high,
modeling
too.
For increase on it, right?
Well, it seems,
That'd be my assumption, that there has to be some workaround at like
Intersection.
at an intersection where they cross over each other, but I can't speak to what it is.
it seems like the city and MPW have no concern, so maybe we just take the recommendation, go water down Stewart and sewer down Pettibone as designed. And then we're looking at $131,000 shortfall. And then I would think that we could take those unencumbered, ARPA funds, that interest from the ARPA funds that we have, and use that to cover that.
So conservation capital projects does have $174,000 in there that's unencumbered right now, that they've been granted over the years, so. it could
Oh,
cover.
okay.
Other than some of that was for some of the other construction projects, but I mean, we could.
Well, cause we had a number of construction projects for conservation, cause I think, and I don't know, are you started yet on the repaving?
The repaving, they're actually coming in Thursday and Friday and repaving Discovery Park.
Okay,
And
so
then
that,
the shelter house, Wolf
Yeah.
Construction is supposed to get on, started on that at any time, getting the base, and I think the shelters to be in first or second week of October. So
and
that
then,
will get done.
and then your maintenance building,
Maintenance building, we're still going back and forth on that. The
we're
first
still trying to
go
get it,
around,
still trying to get it
the
cheaper,
bids
right?
come
Kurt?
in way, way too high.
Wanna spend 200, need 350, I got it,
Yeah.
okay.
But I mean, that would be an option.
Yeah, so the projects you just talked about, those are, those funds
Those
are
are
already
already
set
in there,
aside,
yeah.
so.
So this 174 is in addition to that?
Right.
Okay.
Well, I would think that, you know, yeah, I don't know, I mean, you have a new director coming in that's gonna have their hands full, already. Kurt's leaving her just a few projects. Well, it looks to me, you know, like you know, we could always use as a plan, I would think that would make sense to go as Kurt's recommended, and then if we had to, we could take those unencumbered ARPA, interest income and use that. That'd be fine.
I can live with that.
He has not provided us with an actual drawing of it, he's just doing preliminary figures, so.
Oh,
Cause I think about they're aware of the bicycle trail down the right of way on Stewart, right? Cause that could
Yeah, he
complicate
did look at that,
construction.
and that's why, when you start putting them both there, you might be able to sneak one between the road and the bicycle trail, but you're not gonna sneak both of them through there without cutting into the bike trail, which can be done, but it just increased costs to replace it all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the issue, isn't it, with the bike trail there? Not having the distance, isn't it? Yeah, cause you'd have to tear that bike trail up and report it. Am I correct?
That's correct.
But that's all paved trail down there, that's not
Correct.
concrete,
Yeah.
right? Most of that.
It's asphalt.
Asphalt, it's actually probably
Yes.
more than concrete now, right? Go figure, we could do it with concrete cheaper. Okay,
So just for clarification, do you want to use the funds already designated to conservation first and then go to the ARPA money if we need to, or do you want to leave that 174 alone and just go to ARPA funds for the remainder of that cost?
How much is available in ARPA funds again?
The interest right now is about 150.
So if we use it, it'd be pretty much wiped out.
And we continue to accrue interest because we have a large chunk of ARPA funds sitting there, but so, I mean, we continue to accrue interest, but.
yeah, and I don't know the long-term plan at conservation, I hesitate a little bit to take that whole 174, because that's their kind of capital planning money, and it would kind of get them. We've made good progress down on Deep Lakes and some of the campgrounds are doing and stuff, how about the electrical upgrades at Salisbury, that's all funded out too. I just don't wanna get their long-term capital funded too low, I don't know where, you mean, I don't know what you typically carry as a balance.
I
in
mean,
that area.
we could do half and half. If that makes you feel a little better.
I wouldn't wanna deplete it completely, but I don't know how much you typically need.
It just depends on the projects, and of course, we all know construction projects just keep going up in price.
Yeah.
Let's split it.
You wanna split it, so we take
Makes sense.
50% of the shortfall and take it from the interest income and go, and then the director has other needs and they can come and talk about them.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
I can live with that. Okay, very good.
Let's get those lines in, Kurt, come on.
I think it's good. I think
When
we
do
can
they
start
thinking
that
about-
this afternoon.
When would
aren't you?
when would they be ready to start? They still have to let it and do all kinds of stuff,
We
right?
haven't even signed an agreement with.
Yeah, we have to have detailed drawings done, Jim's gotta get the, agreements with the city, and that's what, we needed to know which direction you wanted to go for when he does his agreements with the city and MPW, so.
So we're probably looking at construction season next year at the earliest.
Sure.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, all right, very good. Next is, action authorizing renewal of the Muscatine County Flexible Benefits Plan for 2024 and setting the open enrollment period for October 2nd, 2023 to November 3rd, 2023.
So the county participates in a flexible benefits plan. There's two parts to our plan. First part is employees can have their health and dental premiums, the portion they pay, taken out on a pre-tax basis. The other half is medical reimbursement or dependent care reimbursement accounts, where they can have money taken out of their paycheck on a pre-tax basis and then use those dollars to cover their out-of-pocket medical costs or childcare costs. This is just the paperwork to renew that plan, and then we set an open enrollment period where we send a notice out to all eligible employees about what they're doing now and what they want to do for next year.
I'd entertain a motion.
I would move the approval.
I'll second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Danny. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next is discussion and possible action to adopt the 2024 Muscatine County holiday schedule.
And really, the only difference that, on this one from what we've done the last several years, we have done 3 personal days and designated 8 holidays. This year, I'm proposing that we designate 9 holidays and give only 2 personal days. And the reason for that is simply that Christmas falls on a Wednesday. And so I know we'd get a lot of grumbling from employees if Wednesday is, they have 1 day off in the middle of the week to celebrate Christmas. So this adds Tuesday, the Christmas Eve day to our schedule. That's certainly not unusual. I mean, most of the government entities and businesses around here do that sort of thing. So we're not gonna be closed a day that everybody else would be open, I guess is what I'm saying there.
That
Yeah,
makes sense.
I think it's a good, I'll move the approval.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Kurt. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Anything other, Nancy?
No, I don't think so.
All right, very good.
I had talked to Nancy a little bit. There's a movement at the state to go with EMS as an essential service, and I think you'll see that they did a resolution in Cedar County, there's a resolution in Louisa County, I know Scott County's working on that. So I'm gonna meet with that, there's a group looking at it in the county of the ambulance services, basically, in EMS. I'll meet with that group again here in the next few weeks, and then I may come to this board and ask that we put a resolution together. The resolution, really, at this point, will be to put us in position if we decide to do something around, funding. So today, EMS or ambulance services are funded either at the township level or at the municipality. And there's movement in the state code to add I believe it was, the proposal was last year, and it may be coming back, that there will be a line item in tax levies for ambulance services, and then that would provide funding. I don't know exactly how they're figuring that out. This would put us in position if that were to happen. You know, I know I've had a lot of people that talk about how that should be taxed, and I think that's a grave concern right now. Is it based on valuation? Is it based on per capita? You know, could it be based on people? You know, how should those be funded? So, more to tell. You know, like I said, I think you're going to see the makeup of ambulance services. I know Cedar County is going through quite a process right now, so you're going to see that all around us here shortly.
Okay, very good. Next is receive information from county employees. Do I have any county employees that wish to address the board on an issue at this time? Seeing no one come forward. Next is receive comments from the public. Do I have anyone from the public that would like to address the board at this time? Seeing no one come forward, it is 9:50 and we are adjourned. Thank you.